Even if you try to bother us, it won't hurt you much since it's your money. Useless poor people with low backgrounds sighed as I did the final check. You're closing your account, right? Please go ahead, they said in a mocking tone. Their eyes were filled with disdain, making me feel disgusted as they stared at us. I decided it was time to give those who judge others by their background a taste of their own medicine. With that thought, I smiled. My name is Tiffany, a 29-year-old office worker. I live a peaceful life with my mom while working. My dad passed away from an illness when I was young. His chronic illness had worsened early. My dad, who was involved in various businesses, was always busy with work, leaving early and coming back late. Even so, he treasured his family time, and I have fond memories of playing with him on his days off. Mom and I were initially shocked by Dad's death, but Mom, not wanting me to feel lonely, cherished our time together. Fortunately, when Dad fell ill, he made sure with the former CEO to secure enough funds for our livelihood. Thanks to that, I was able to go to college, and both Dad's and Mom's parents were very supportive. Especially my paternal grandparents, who lived nearby, took great care of me when Mom was at work. We still go back to both sets of grandparents for holidays like Christmas and spend time together. I am grateful today thanks to the support of many people. To get back, I went to a national university and got a job at a major company. I thought about working at the bank my dad was supposed to inherit, but I chose a career I loved, as you're always told to do what you love. I've already handed the bank over, so don't worry about it. Thanks to a happy home and the freedom to enjoy hobbies, I had no interest in romance. But now, at a mature age, many of my friends are married with kids, which led me to think about marriage. That's when a certain encounter happened. I never imagined this meeting would lead to a major incident. Hey Tiffany, aren't you interested in love? Ah, that was the starting point, a question from a colleague at work. We've been close since our rookie days. You know, I have an acquaintance who's struggling to find a match. He's well educated and handsome. You're highly educated too, Tiffany. Maybe you'd like to meet him. Really? I've always thought it's a waste for someone as high spec as you, Tiffany, said a few people in the office. She has a wide network and always shares various stories. She's living with her boyfriend she met at a party and seems very happy. She's quite concerned about my lack of romantic involvement. I had even consulted her about marriage leading to this arrangement. A few days later, I agreed to meet a man named Yosef. The rendezvous was at a cafe. As I waited nervously, a man approached me. Tiffany. Yes, nice to meet you. You're Yosef, right? Yes, thank you for today. Yosef's expression was blank as he looked me over. It felt like he was sizing me up, and I was a bit taken aback. Then, taking a seat opposite me, he quickly started the conversation. What do you do for work? Oh, I work in sales at a company. I've always enjoyed interacting with people and sharing my opinions, which is why I chose sales. I find it fulfilling, and I love the moments when customers are happy with their purchases. What's the name of your company? I told him the name of my company. Upon hearing it, Yosef paused for a moment, then smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile, more like one of satisfaction. My company is quite a large enterprise with good performance. We're well trusted by our customers. Since he asked, I decided to return the question. What do you do, Yosef? At my question, Yosef snorted with pride and began to boast. I work at Sunrise Bank as a department head. Sunrise Bank is a really big bank, you know. The work is tough, not something ordinary people can handle. But since my dad is the CEO and I'm the successor, it's different for me. I felt a stir in my chest at Yosef's words. I was expecting a normal response, but Yosef's aggressively toned words made me feel uncomfortable. Indeed, Sunrise Bank is a major bank. I knew about Sunrise Bank due to a certain incident, but I was surprised to learn that Joseph worked there as a department head. Wow, that's impressive. Sunrise Bank is a big place, isn't it? I flattered Joseph on purpose. I saw no need to be rude, and though I thought this would probably be our last meeting, I figured it was better to be nice. Pleased with my flattery, Joseph continued to boast about himself. Honestly, talking to him was painful. He didn't listen to me occasionally, but always turned the conversation back to himself, even making outrageous comments about his lack of romantic prospects. I'm quite popular, but it's always people who don't match my family background or education level that come to me. I thought the problem might be his attitude, but I had already decided not to meet him again. After informing my friend, as time passed, Joseph, still looking satisfied, made a suggestion. I'd really like to meet your parents. Huh? But we just met today. That's exactly why. Parents' excellence is important, especially if we're going to date, right? Inside, I screamed, I have no intention of dating you, but he seemed oblivious to my discomfort and kept pushing forward. When are your parents and you available? I'll have to discuss it with my mom. What about your dad? Joseph pressed on. I felt a growing sense of disgust, but couldn't find the strength to cut him off. My dad passed away when I was young. At my words, Joseph narrowed his eyes suddenly. Waiting for him to speak, I said, I see, and fell silent, pondering. Will send me a date that works for you later. I'll adjust my schedule. Oh no, thank you. Should we leave then? Before I could finish, Joseph stood up. It felt like talking to someone from a different world. Despite my reluctance, I had given him my contact information and even discussed meeting our parents. His disdainful look upon hearing about my father's absence bothered me. In the end, we agreed to meet again with our parents. When I explained this to Mom, she smiled wryly. Maybe you were just nervous because you haven't dated before. Maybe, but the way he spoke was weird. Well, his parents will be there, right? Just say no if it doesn't feel right. I'll be there too. Thanks, Mom. Sorry for dragging you into this, as I apologized, feeling guilty. Mom laughed heartily. It's okay. No need for you to feel bad. Besides, I'm curious about Sunrise Bank, so let's see how it goes. So, Joseph and I arranged a family meeting. At that time, I had no idea Joseph had planned the meeting for such a shocking purpose. On the date of the meeting, we arrived at the fancy restaurant Joseph had chosen. It was a big place inside. Our table was ready, but Joseph hadn't arrived yet. We waited, and shortly after the scheduled time, Joseph and his family arrived. Sorry we're late. The traffic was terrible. Nice to meet you, and thank you for today. Joseph's family took their seats unapologetically. Irritated but not wanting to start a fight, I initiated the family meeting. After some time, Joseph's mom, Morgan, with a slight smile, spoke up. So, where is your father? Is he coming later? Huh. I looked at Joseph, but he just smirked dismissively and said nothing. I had already told him my dad was deceased. Morgan acted as if she didn't know, despite having agreed to meet our families. Mom quickly responded, in my stead, my husband passed away from illness when Tiffany was young. So today, I'm here as her mother. Mom responded with a calm smile. In contrast, Morgan raised her voice in an exaggerated manner. Oh my, Tiffany is from a single-parent family. I was taken aback by her words even after saying my father passed. Away from illness, her tone clearly carried malice. Being from a single-parent family, life must be quite hard. How about she graduated from a public university? That's commendable, right? Really, but still being from a single-parent family, wouldn't dating her be complicated? Joseph's family's conversation left Mom and me utterly Dumbfounded despite being present, they spoke so disrespectfully, mocking us as if being from a single-parent family was something bad. Such words aren't suitable for our first meeting, Ander, I retorted it in a low voice. Excuse me, but after Dad passed away, Mom raised me with great care. I owe my current life to her. Isn't it rude to speak about someone like that when you've just met? However, Morgan bursts out laughing at my words. Rude? Isn't it more absurd for the daughter of a single parent to think about marrying into a high-class family? I'm not really into strong-willed women. This is pointless. There's no getting through to them. Thinking this, I just stared at them in disbelief. I had high hopes. Since she works at a major company, well, you'll eventually carry on Sunrise Bank, so maybe she's not quite at your level. As they hurled more insults, I felt no need to listen anymore. Tribal with anger, Mom glared at them. Did you invite us here today just to look down on us? I've heard from Tiffany about the other day you're enjoying berating us for being a single parent family, aren't you? It was the first time I heard her speak so sternly. Please stop with the accusations. It was just a little teasing, right? No one feels good being mocked, and all your remarks are condescending. We have no intention of listening to this any further. Yosef's family looked displeased at Mom's clear statement. Presumptuous for commoners. Commoners, huh? Indeed, that may be the case, but this has made up my mind. Yosef's family looked briefly surprised at Mom's words, then burst into laughter. They seemed to be thinking, what can you possibly do? Mom sighed and began to speak. Actually, we have funds deposited with your bank, but we don't wish to entrust them to people like you. Oh, really? But we don't know your name, so it can't be much, right? It's probably insignificant. That's right. Even if you try to trouble us with your funds, it won't really affect us low-class poor people are not needed. I realized that Eden Mom's last attempt at reconciliation was in vain. They continued to speak disdainfully. Unaware, I sighed and made the final confirmation. We're closing our account. Okay, go ahead, they said with a mocking tone and disdainful expressions as they looked at us, and thought to myself, let's make those who judge others by their background suffer. But I smiled at the thought. Is that so? Then we will proceed as such, and please consider this meeting never happened. Of course, we had no intention of marrying a daughter from a single-parent family. Well, then we will take our leave now, Mom. And I stood up. Oh, don't worry about today's bill. It's too expensive for you. Is that so? Well then, I said. With that, our family meeting ended. Later, I made a phone call. Weeks later, my mobile phone was flooded with calls from Isfav. Of course, I had anticipated this and had no intention of answering. It was their own responsibility. I immediately blocked the number. A few days later, he received a call from Grandpa Kyle. Summoned by Kyle, Mom and I headed to Sunrise Bank, into the meeting room. Yosef's family, looking pale, was present. As soon as they saw us, Morgan stood up and rushed over to bow deeply. I didn't respond to Morgan's apology. Instead, I just smiled and asked, what exactly are you apologizing for? Morgan bit her lip, trembling with anger and frustration. There were too many things they should apologize for, which probably made her feel overwhelmed. This situation started because I said we would close our account. Our account wasn't particularly large, and closing it wouldn't have caused much damage. But Kyle's case was different. Kyle managed the inheritance my dad left at Sunrise Bank for our benefit. He also had his own account there. If all accounts, including Kyle's and my dad's inheritance, were closed, it would total about $7 million. Their disrespect caused this decision, and importantly, Kyle is the former CEO of the bank. Dad was supposed to take over the bank, but passed away young, so the position went to Scott. I didn't know Tiffany was related to the former CEO, Scott, looking anxious, pleaded as if making an excuse. But that's no excuse. Even if they didn't know, their prejudice against our family is their own fault. You mean if we were relatives, you would have treated us differently? Hey, don't talk to Dad like that. It's your fault for not telling us from the start that your grandpa was the former CEO. I don't have any obligation to tell a stranger like you that. Besides, you were the one who started it and made fun of us, remember? Yosef, unable to retort to my words, narrowed his eyes in frustration. You insulted me knowing I was from a single-parent family. When I said I would transfer the bank to Insecurity, you told us to go ahead. We just did as we were told. But it's just that. It may be just that for you, but have you ever thought about the feelings of someone whose family has been insulted? Silence fell. Morgan was trembling and looking hopeless, and Scott was hanging his head. But Joseph still seemed unconvinced, his face full of dissatisfaction. Getting all high and mighty just because people talk to you. At that moment, the door to the conference room opened, and Kyle appeared. Seeing Kyle's stern face, Scott and Morgan turned even paler. Frozen in place, only Joseph glared at me. Even after giving you a chance to reflect, you're still only thinking about yourselves, Kyle, the former CEO, said. It's not my fault, it's her. Watch your words. If you continue, you'll end up even more miserable. Joseph, silenced by Kyle's words, glared at me again. Then, as if resigned, he burst out, "No way. Who would think a single parent's relative was the former CEO? You knew I was the future CEO and came to the family meeting just to mock us." Joseph, be quiet. Kyle glared sternly at Joseph, who was breathing heavily. Future CEO, huh? Kyle then turned his gaze to Scott. Scott shrank even more under Kyle's gaze. I understand wanting to leave the bank to your son, but now that I know his mindset, it's impossible for him to continue as CEO. That's ridiculous. Over something like this, Scott started to retort, but sat down again under Kyle's gaze. You still don't understand that your attitude is the problem. Though I'm retired, the board will decide. If you have something to say it to them. Remember, we recorded the previous conversation and this one. Don't forget that. I took out a voice recorder. In front of the three, I pressed play. The recorder started playing back our conversation from the other day. How dare you prepare something like that? It's unfair. It was just a precaution. But remember, you forced me into this situation. Joseph had nothing to say in return, and their faces turned pale. Thank you, we'll handle it from here, they said, so Mom and I left. Ultimately, Kyle didn't transfer the funds, at least not officially. Scott was removed from his CEO position, and OF was demoted, seemingly unable to handle the blow to his pride. Joseph resigned voluntarily. Kyle's influence in the financial industry meant Joseph would struggle to find work in the same field again. Whether Scott knew this or not, he seemed determined to work until retirement. But Kyle said it would be tough for him, both mentally and physically. Morgan, who used to wield power as the CEO's wife, apparently started part-time work to maintain her lifestyle, but her character likely made it hard for her to keep a job. I'm really sorry. It's okay. You didn't know, right? I only shared what happened with the friend who introduced me to Joseph. She just heard about him through someone else and wasn't at fault. Mom was initially concerned about being a single parent, but I'm happy now and can live thanks to the support I've received. When I told her that, she smiled and said, "Thank you." After everything was taken care of, Kyle told us to come over to his house again sometime. I'm really grateful for Kyle's help in resolving the situation. It was tough, but I'm happy now, so it's okay. I have some good news for you. Really. It's not about dating again, is it? It's a friend of my boyfriend this time. He's definitely a good guy. I'm not interested in dating right now, but I'm satisfied with my current life. I want to keep cherishing those who support me, and maybe someday I'll meet someone I really click with.